I've never really heard anyone say as good as silver. Yeah, they're always saying, well, it's as good as gold. And there's a lot of interest in silver because primarily of the recent rise in spot and also the narrowing of the silver gold ratio. And I'm just looking at some of the interesting things about it online and listening to a couple of podcasts, including those put out by Money Metals Exchange. And it's interesting actually that silver's not really my thing. I think I prefer the portability of gold, but I can understand why a lot of people are very pro silver, even though it's not as portable. And it's interesting that the situation at the moment with pretty high silver gold ratio, although it's narrowed and was very high, if you go back and take a look at the silver gold ratio historically, it was probably about between 15 and 18 between, say, 1687 and about 1980s when it started climbing. So that's like, 15 ounces of silver was the equivalent value to 1 ounce of gold. I wish I'd changed some silver back then for gold, and I think I'd be doing pretty well. And then obviously the silver gold ratio changed and went right up to 100 in the 1930s, back down again to about 20 in the late 60s, early 70s, up again in the late 80s, and it's been kind of going up and down in a pattern since then. And we're used to seeing it around 60 to 80, but the question is whether that has to be, and whether silver has been particularly undervalued by the marketplace. And if you look at some of the information about how much above ground supply there is of silver versus gold between, say, the 1950s and 2013, when I've got some figures, it's interesting that because gold is mined, and pretty much every bit of gold that's ever been mined is above the ground and available in some format or other, usually in jewellery. And because silver, when it's mined, a lot of it, certainly in recent times, has been used and may never be recovered. The actual amount of silver compared to gold that is actually sitting there waiting to be used above the ground is actually incredibly small compared to gold. There's a lot more gold around than there is silver at any one time. And if you look at the gold supply, obviously most of the gold around is kind of in private hands or has been used for fabrication or jewellery and that kind of thing. But there's around about 176,000 metric tons was reported in 2013. And if you look at the figures of the actual above ground stock, of the 100% that is above ground at the end of 2013, only about 1.6% of it was actually mined recently, and the rest of it is effectively jewellery and existing stock. So 97% of the gold that's around is effectively already been produced. And they say that over the next 10-15 years we're going to reach that peak production of gold. It may even be there already, and there's going to be a limit to what comes out the ground. But they say that we've already started and we've already reached peak production of silver, unless new stocks are found, that actually the amount mined is going down. And the big question, I'm not really a very good analyst at all, but the question is whether it is actually worth investing more in silver and selling gold to buy silver, when my natural inclination is actually to sell silver to buy gold, because I prefer gold. But looking at some of these historical facts, it may be that silver is actually the cleverer bet with the market at the moment. So what do you guys think about the silver gold ratio, and what do you think about whether or not silver is the great undiscovered potential profit maker for years to come?